for mine to come up on the administrative review for 340 River Drive.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. All right. That's what you're here for. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. Next up was Kenny Sires.
Okay, gentlemen, I am here representing Signs and Wonders. I'm hoping you can hear me okay. I'm in the middle of a winter storm right now, but we have a sign plan review to rebrand the Jiffy Lube location in Hadley.
Okay, and I believe that came in last week, and I did send it around to everyone. Are you able to share your screen?
I believe so. I haven't done a lot of this, but I do have the brand book up on my computer, and I'm hoping that I can do that successfully. Would you like me to try?
Please try.
All right, let's give it a shot. Okay, is that coming through, gentlemen?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, so what we got is the Jiffy Lube on 347 Russell Street. Um, Forgive me a little bit. I'm not exactly sure how detailed you guys want me to get on this. There's about four signs that I would consider significant signs that are typically permitted in most areas. I'm not familiar with your area, so also again, forgive me there. And then it has a handful of signs which we would typically call incidental signs. Um, but if you look at this screen, it has basically an overview of the site. And if you see this front elevation is where most of the significant signs are going to be. The significant signs being we're going to replace the existing fascia, which is this part right here. So basically what's happening, just to give it in a nutshell, is it's the same business. The Jiffy Lube is just updating their branding. So they're taking their old logos and color design and giving it kind of an updated feel. So mostly what I'm doing here is replacing existing. And so this being the front elevation, the significant signs being this EO1, which is this Jiffy Lube fascia, and then this EO7 right here being this Pennzoil wall cabinet. And I don't know if you guys typically are concerned about canopies, but there's an awning canopy over the entrance to help keep them, from getting wet. And then there's several incidental, what we would call incidental signs, like the exit only type signs, the tire change, oil change type signs. So this being the backside, everything on the backside is what I would consider or call incidental signage. It's got some panel signs that say tires, brakes, oil change, etc., and things of that nature. And then on the east and west elevations, we're putting these Jiffy Lube channel letter sets. These will be illuminated, right? And they're roughly just a little bit over 4 inches. Well, the channel letters themselves aren't over 4 inches. I've got a screen on that'll give us the details, but that fascia itself is about 4 foot 4 inches tall. But a channel letter set on both of the side elevations. All right, so I don't know if you want me to go through and break down each sign individually, or how you would like me to proceed.
Okay. I guess a couple of questions before we get too far into this. If you could go back to the very first page you had, where it shows the front of the building. That one there.
Yes.
So the top left, top right
Okay.
corner is what is existing today.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That is correct. That is the look that it has right now.
Okay. and that sign is internal or external illumination?
Is it
On
internally
the
Existing sign.
so all the channel letters,
up on the fascia? Yeah.
the existing sign itself, I believe it's internal, but to be 100% honest, I don't know
Okay.
on the
And
existing.
You're allowed up to 4 signs on the building. Total square footage combined cannot exceed 64 square feet. So if the front sign is internally illuminated, you can use it, you can replace it with an existing internally illuminated sign the same size as the existing. If you want to go larger than what's on the building currently on the front, it would need to be external illumination. The
No,
light,
you need to comply with our current standards. Right.
correct. The lights on the signs on the side of the building, you said that they were illuminated, internal or external?
On the side of the buildings, those channel letter sets will be internal illuminated.
That is not permitted.
Okay.
So they would have to be external illumination. Halo illumination is also good, if the letters could be opaque, solid lettering with backlighting. That's a permitted lighting, or down lighting with
Okay.
lights, however you want to do it. But internal illumination, I know, on those signs would not be allowed. And so
Okay.
before we get too much into describing all your signs, I just want to make sure you're aware, because you're probably going to have to go back and redo some of this stuff to comply with the square footage. So, like again, you're allowed up to 4 signs on the building, total of all the signs not to exceed 64 square feet.
Okay.
And you're
All
allowed
right, 4 signs.
you're still allowed 1 roadside sign, and that can be 64 square feet. I believe the existing roadside sign for Jiffy Lube might be internal illumination. I'm not
Yeah,
positive.
the pylon on the street, yes.
Yeah, so you
Is
could
that what-
replace that with you could replace that with a 64 square foot internal illuminated sign.
Okay. And that's so mostly what we have issue with is like these channel letter sets that are on my screen right now, because that's internally illuminated. That's not allowed in your area.
That is correct. Yeah, and because the sign appears to be larger on the front than what's there today, it would have to be external illumination.
Now when you say the sign itself, so on that, I'm gonna go back to this one. So on this fascia, like this entire fascia is considered the sign?
No.
No,
No, or just
if you
the
were to
part that is showing the logo.
draw a rectangle around whatever your logo is, just to the right of Jiffy Lube. Go back to the first one you just had. That's it. If you were to draw a rectangle,
Yeah.
we don't consider the whole red line a sign. If you were to draw a rectangle around the end of multi-care, and I guess that's I'm assuming that the J is some kind of a logo J in front of Jiffy Lube.
Yeah.
Yes.
Draw a rectangle around that, and then the area of the Pennzoil sign on the front would be considered the combination for the front of the building square footage of the 2 signs. The little sign,
and then the 2 channel letters on the side.
the little signs on the front of the building and the back of the building, we would consider those directional signs, and those would not count towards anything as long as they're not illuminated.
And the street number is okay as well, right, Bill? Jim?
Yes, the street number doesn't count.
Okay. So it sounds like I need to go back to the client and talk to them about this. So because on so and then like on these side ones, so they could have signage here, it just can't be internally illuminated. So
Right.
they can't do this face lit channel letter
As
set
long as
that
that
they want to
doesn't,
do like this.
Yeah.
as long as the one on the west side that area added to what you've got on the north side doesn't exceed 64 square feet total.
Yeah, all the
64 square feet. Okay.
of the
All right.
of your four. Are you one on each, one on the west side, one on the east side, one on the front? Was there? I think you had something on the back of the building too. There was a Jiffy Lube. So those signs could not exceed a total of 64 square feet.
I think the one on the back was on the existing, but I think they took it off over the door. But there were the bays. I don't know.
Oh yeah, oh,
Yeah.
the ones on the bay. There's
Those
no
bays
Jiffy
count?
Lube there, right? Yeah, those are we
Okay.
would consider those directional signs again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think I understand, gentlemen. I appreciate the clarity on that. Is there a way to, once I get these changes made with the client, to send them for review informally, or is this always the process? Will I need to resubmit this way again?
Do it this way. This is informal. We don't have staff that could evaluate something like this. So this is how you
Okay.
get reviewed. I'll also direct you to section 7 of our
Okay.
zoning bylaw, which is the sign bylaw.
And you can find that online at the town website.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'll do a little more digging on that. So I appreciate your time, gentlemen. Thank you. And I'll be back in touch.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. And you can stop sharing whenever you're.
There. As host, I have powers.
We've always known that, Phil.
Next in was Scott Rubin, who yes, Scott Rubin is still here.
Helps to open my camera. Good evening. Again, Scott Rubin, 71 Legion Parkway, Brockton, Mass. Here on behalf of HIE Holding Group LLC. I have.
Okay, just wait a minute then. You're on the agenda for later. This is the open business.
Sure.
So,
No
Stand by.
problem.
We will get to you in it shortly.
No worries. Sorry.
okay.
No problem.
Next in was Jen's iPhone, which I don't see here anymore.
Might have checked out.
Okay. Next in was Tammy Borwell. Oh, but she's the building department. So that's okay. Matt McTeague.
Matt McTeague, are you here for a scheduled hearing or open hours? If you're talking, you're muted.
Okay. Well,
We'll get back to you.
Matt is,
and
Matt
then
is-
Andrew
that would be,
was next.
yes, that would be me.
Yes.
Andrew's on the Hadley matter.
Oh, okay.
And so is Matt McTeague. We're just here to.
That was Matt. Okay.
Okay.
As
Okay.
is Tom Reedy, I believe.
Yes. Tom Reedy is here for many things.
And that leaves Chris.
Chris is part of the Parmar project,
All right.
unless you have something separate for us.
Not tonight.
Okay. Then that is
What
that
about
clears the list.
Gagik?
I believe.
He's with the
Hadley.
Hadley.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we have 6:46. We will open the public hearings. And probably, we got administrative review of 340 River Drive is up first, so we'll do that one. And this is for a ground mount solar I believe, on 340 River Drive.
I'm Craig Warren. I'm the construction manager for Momentum Solar, proposing to install 28 modules at 11.48 kW at the property that you just talked about at 240 River Drive.
Okay, can you share your screen to show us the project?
I cannot. I thought my young lady in the office sent you everything you needed.
Well,
I can, but I have nothing on my screen to share with you,
Okay.
actually.
I guess we should clarify that going forward. I will have to go fishing for what she sent.
This is my second time in front of you folks, and I didn't that time either. You had somebody, whoever was there had it. So I do apologize. I'll make sure I have it ready next time.
You remember
who
when
would,
you
who would the
submitted?
email have come from?
Christina Pulaski, K. Pulaski, or Christina.Pulaski at momentumsolar.com.
Okay. So let me see.
I think we went through this exact same thing last time, so I
Yep.
could apologize.
So let's see. I have multiple. Let's see which would be best. That's probably the best one. Okay.
The design letter that is 6 pages, well, actually it's 9 pages, would be the best representation. I have them in printed form in front of me, but I have no way to put them on my computer, obviously.
Okay. When you say the design letter, I have a 1-page letter.
No, that's just the engineer's letter.
Okay. Then I think that what I want is this. Okay.
Next time I'll have Christina join us. She's got it all at her fingertips. That's the one.
That's the one. Okay. So let's talk us through it.
If you want to go down one more page, it's much easier. That's just showing you the property. There's the layout of our 28 panels.
Okay.
Then the distances to each property border.
Okay. I will scroll through this so that
That's the information, obviously, you folks were looking for as far as the size of the house, the distances from the property lines, the square footage of the actual array itself, and the percentages. The setbacks as you go, whoops.
oh, okay.
And then it just, the next page you were just on is just a close-up of the array itself versus its positioning on the property.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just going to have to retrieve one document here.
It looked like you were around 11% site coverage.
All right, I'm going to just turn my audio off for a minute so my printer doesn't overwhelm everybody. Oh. guess I've lost that control for the moment, so I will, I'll just keep scrolling. That was the next one, which it's just going to be a fixed array.
Yes, yes, that just shows the way the anchors are set into the ground and the angle at which the panels will be facing the sun. We have a company that comes in and sets the entire structure itself, and then we come in, run the wiring through the trench, and set the panels.
I see in the detail, it says concrete footing or
Helical piles or something?
helical. We prefer the helical.
That's what we use. The company we use actually is the same company that every single solar company in Massachusetts uses. Okay, because there's not a lot of people that do what this company does. They're nationwide. Every solar company, Sunrun, Trinity, we all use the exact same company. They're called Solar Foundations. Original name, but they literally have cornered the market on what they do.
Okay.
Let's put it this way. I needed to do ground mounts because I run the state of Rhode Island also. And they weren't licensed in Rhode Island because it just wasn't worth their time because it's kind of a pain in the neck to do solar in Rhode Island. They were forced to be licensed there because everybody needed them there. So, but it's the last one that you approved was done that way. That's the only way we do them. I think we do the option in case there is a board that for some reason would want it the other way, which wouldn't make any sense, but it's Massachusetts.
And that's what we get.
Absolutely. I've lived there my whole life, so.
And
that's just the single line diagram for the wiring inspectors,
Okay.
breaking everything down.
Okay.
This will be
And that's the same thing,
Mhm.
showing the equipment that we're actually using. That page again is more for the electrical inspector, from our engineers to him or her. That page is the same as if we did a roof mount, actually.
I just got a quick question. I mean, everything looks fine on your solar placard. With your one line diagram, basically,
Yep.
do you have your solar installer and phone number included on that panel? And
Yes, we do. Yes, we absolutely do.
there's one more sticker.
If you zoom in on, well, there's one. That would be on the house. That placard right there is for the fire department. Not that the fire department has any real concern with a ground mount, but it's to show everybody where everything is. There's one mounted on the array, and there's usually one right at the meter on the home. And if we have to mount any other equipment on the home, which is not like the disconnect, will be right next to the meter. That's just common. That's what all the electrical inspectors want, and the fire departments too.
Yep.
So there'd be a placard on the home and a placard on the array itself.
The placard you just showed, Bill, could you go back to that?
Okay, I was going to say this one has the address and the phone number on it. I'm not sure.
Right, that's on the disconnect, the one that has all of our information.
So these signs over here go on this device over here.
Yes, exactly.
And
If
then
you
that's
zoom-
the last one.
Right.
So
That's the directional one there. That basically is just telling everybody where everything is. As you see, it shows the trench, it shows the disconnect and the utility meter on the front of the home. Okay, so basically there's going to be 2 disconnects on the home, so that would be actually in 3 places. Because as you see from the solar array, it goes to the corner of the house. Okay, there'll be a disconnect there, then the wiring will run in the house in the basement. Okay.
Right.
And then come out, because if you look at the bottom corner where it shows the meter and our disconnect, that small square on the inside of the home is their main panel.
any
So the
batteries?
wiring runs inside the home to that, so that we don't have to run a trench the full length of the gentleman's property.
That's fine. Any batteries associated with this?
No,
This will be
if I had my way, we wouldn't use batteries, but that's a national decision.
Hmm.
When the technology gets better, but People are buying them. They're expensive, but there's just too much. It's where do you put them in? I put one inside a home in Plymouth. I won't bore you with the details, but it cost me thousands of dollars to make a fireproof room inside a home that anybody would accept. Now pretty much everybody wants them outside.
Okay. Anybody want to, well, let me just skim through these one more time. Um, and I think that should,
Everything looks fine according to the bylaw.
okay. And I will stop sharing. We do have a checklist here. And see, I have to check one thing. I think I may be in a butter to this property, which is okay. We have 3. It's not a special permit, so you just need to vote to approve it. But let me just go to the assessor's map for a second. What's let's see,
340.
340.
340 River Drive.
Yep. Oh yeah. I own some swampland out behind the property lines here.
I've got my Google Earth photo up, and I was just going to ask you which one of these homes was yours.
It's basically the course of the brook
Oh, okay.
to the
Yeah.
west. And so I will abstain, but it's not a special permit, so you only need 3 votes to acknowledge administrative approval. So I'll go through the let's see, we're taking final action within 90 days from receipt of the application. Suitable development, compliance with the requirements. That's not applicable. No special conditions, just as installed. We have all of the site plan requirements, locations, dimensions, setbacks, right away, tree cover, adjacent parcels, before photo. We have all the specs. We have the line diagram. We have the contact information. And we have the specs. We have the installation, the schematic. Some of this is repetitive, so I apologize. Elevation drawings, and no structures involved here. Attachment connections. No, they have insurance. They have site control. Presumably they've notified the electric utility. You won't get connected without it, I guess.
Yeah, I have that sitting right here too, in case you
Okay.
asked.
Site control, utility notification, minimal land clearing, natural vegetation, will not interfere with wildlife corridors, adequate setbacks, and it's residential. So the conditions of the checklist have been satisfied. Oh, I guess we should ask whether, did anyone get back to you, Jim?
Nobody, anybody got back to me, said there was no problem.
So someone wants to make a motion to approve the project as complying with the administrative review.
I would so move.
I will second it.
Good. Good motion, a second. Any discussion, questions from anybody?
Just one last, you said there would be 3 of those placards, about one at each disconnect, one at the ground mount, one at the corner of the house, and you said one at the panel in the basement?
No, one on the outside, one at the meter on the outside of the house, one at
Okay.
the back. The 2 disconnects is because anytime you break the surface, you have to put a disconnect in. So
Okay.
it's the back corner of the house, one on the front corner of the house, and at the array itself.
Okay. That's it, Mr. Chairman. That's
Okay.
my only question.
No other, no other discussion? All in favor, roll call vote.
Dunn, aye.
Dwyer abstain.
Maximovsky, aye.
Zagradnik, aye.
Motion passes 3-0, 1 absent and 1 abstention. You're all set?
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I just have one thing to show you before I go, because
Sure.
you were showing cats. I had to take a picture because I can't. Can you see that? That cat in the front is
Yeah.
25 pounds.
How much?
It's a Maine Coon.
No wonder it's
she's-
flat.
She's sleeping right behind me, and then you see my Brittany, and then our normal size cat. But I just needed to show you since you were all comparing cats earlier. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Hey, have a great one. Thank you.
You
Yeah.
too.
Okay. Now for the public hearing, I'll read the public hearing notice as it appeared in the Daily Hampshire Gazette. Hadley Planning Board will conduct a public hearing, Zoom public hearing for special permit according to section 30.4.5 of the Hadley Zone Bylaw on Tuesday, February 18th, 2025, beginning at 6:45 p.m. Purpose of the hearing is to review the application of HIE Holding Group LLC to continue operating Hadley Dispensary at 251 Russell Street. No change in business use or property alterations are proposed. Applications available by mailing planning at Hadley MA or go to the town clerk's office. Published twice in the Gazette, June 21 and 28. And this basically is the business has been sold to a new owner, and under the Hadley Zone Bylaw, any change of ownership of a marijuana dispensary shall require a new public hearing. So that's why we're here.
Jim, you said June 21st and 28th. You meant January?
I'm sorry, January 21 and 20.
We might have expired, and Mom would call us out probably.
Sorry about that. Thank you. All right.
Attorney
Go
Rubin.
ahead.
Good evening. Again, Scott Rubin, 71 Legion Parkway, Brockton, Mass. On behalf of the applicant HIE Holding Group LLC, as you mentioned, we're under agreement. So I don't want to say the property or the business itself has been sold yet. We're under agreement. And part of that process is to go through several regulatory approvals. One is through the Cannabis Control Commission. The other is before this board, and we're still in the process of going through that Cannabis Control Commission process. So that's not been completed, but this is one of the things that we need to do. The third thing would be to obtain a host community agreement from the town as well, once we've reached these two regulatory approvals. So, I just want to make sure we're clear that we have not taken, we haven't sold yet. We can't do that until we get through all those processes. As you probably know, but as a reminder, Hadley Holistic Greens is the current operator at 251 Russell Street. They received a special permit through the planning board back in July 6th of 2021. And under your bylaws, basically a transfer of any interest or any license requires the new applicant to essentially come back before the board and ask for a special permit be issued in their name. As one of the conditions on the special permit is that your bylaws dictate that the application is only good to this specific applicant. And as we are transferring or attempting to transfer the assets into a new one, we would require approval from this board. That being said, I reviewed with, I have Arthur Hovnesian. He's the proposed sole owner of the business. He's on the Zoom call as well. We've reviewed the special findings and the supplemental conditions of the original special permit. And other than the one caveat that I mentioned in my letter, which was that the hours of operation under your bylaw do allow an opening as early as 8 a.m. Currently, the special condition, I believe under supplemental condition number 1, restricts opening to 10 a.m. So that's the only thing other than approving this permit that we are asking for as different. We're completely acceptable with whatever conditions are already in this special permit. We're making no changes. We're going to keep the name. We're not going to change operations, and so we're perfectly comfortable with these conditions. We would like to be able to expand the hours to 2 additional hours in the morning. Our experience has been that these are viable hours of operation and wouldn't involve any extra staff and would provide us an additional opportunity to make this business work. This particular location and business we're hoping to obviously increase some traffic flow and get some more business in there. And with being able to announce that we're under new management and expand the hours a little bit would hopefully help bring some more business to this establishment. That being said, again, since we're not really making any changes to this business other than that, I would ask that the board consider and approve this under the same conditions other than that additional 2 hours of early opening if possible.
So
So
give me
you would like to open at 8 o'clock in the morning as opposed to the 10 o'clock current?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
close at,
Well, the time for the hours under the bylaw, I believe, is 8 to 8. So I believe the bylaw under section 34.13 says no sales between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. So, and I believe the permit currently now allowed 8 p.m. to 10 a.m. So we're just looking for that 8 a.m.
Okay. I believe the only reason we did that was what was requested.
Right.
Oh, well, that's perfect then. We don't have to, if that's allowable and it's competitive to be there, we'd rather have the hours than not. Even if we decide at some point not to open as early, then that at least would be our option at that point. That would be great.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody in the audience or comments? I mean, pretty straightforward, 1-for-1 change of ownership, really invisible to the majority of people, except for maybe the customers themselves.
Yeah, if I could,
Yep.
maybe just,
Sorry.
no, okay, so just maybe quickly, as Scott said, the deal, it hasn't finalized yet. There's a couple contingencies, CCC approval being one of them. We would just want to make sure for Hadley, they could continue to operate. And then if something happens and the deal does not consummate, they wouldn't have to come back. So it's not like the transfer is actually occurring. it only occurs upon satisfaction of, let's say, CCC approval and the deal closing. So just, you know, however we want it, if we want to just understand that, that's fine, but I just want to note that.
Obviously, we're okay with that because we can't operate without the approval. So we're not gonna sabotage the place and jump in there if we don't have all the approvals.
So
We
you're
don't-
asking for our approval contingent upon your transfer.
And that's fine.
Correct.
That's okay with us. That's okay.
Okay, I'll throw that in as a contingency.
Perfectly okay.
I would ask my fellow board members, has anyone heard any complaints about the Hadley's operations? I mean, I
Now,
haven't.
I specifically emailed the police chief on this one and I got no comments. There was no negative comments. They've had virtually of the 2 dispensaries in town, there have been essentially 0 issues.
We like to keep it that way.
There was been a single technical violation for this property.
Okay.
That they sold product after 8 p.m., but to someone who had entered before 8 p.m.
Oh,
And the cash registers or whatever their cash system is connected directly to the Cannabis Control Commission. So it's sort of self-reported, the violation. And as
Okay.
I understand it, it also got reported to the police chief as a violation. He was not concerned about it. And as I understand it, the adjustment they made was to not admit new customers after a certain point. So that, you know, after 7:45, they won't let anyone else in.
okay.
And that was acceptable to Cannabis Control. That's obviously acceptable to the police chief, who had only mentioned it just as in matter of passing.
Okay. I mean, if that's the case, we would expect to continue. We don't want to run a non-compliant shop, and usually these transactions are pretty quick. They're usually pretty quick, so 15 minutes should be more than enough time to.
Yeah, and we're not going to impose that as a condition. I just wanted you to be aware that that was the trigger for the one violation that did occur. So you'll have to just work out your own protocol.
Okay, that's fine. It's tough to get away with just about anything. The CCC's got they got their hand pretty much everywhere, so, and they can see everything.
So rather than, I printed out the text of the prior approval.
Yeah.
What I think I'm going to do is just an incorporation by reference here and not read all 4 pages of it again. So
That's okay.
I will make a motion to approve the application for change of ownership based upon the findings and conditions contained in the Hadleaf decision voted July 6, 2021, with the following modifications. Modification 1, hours 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And modification 2, conditioned on Cannabis Control Commission approval, and closing.
Yep. Did you just want sort of a letter what would you be looking for?
What I will do, we'll write up I'll write up a short decision, and I will attach to it a copy of the file decision. Did you file this decision at the registry, Tom?
Yeah, it should be there.
It's
Okay.
there. I got a copy. Yep.
Okay, so I will pull a copy from the registry. So we'll give you a one-page approval subject to the conditions previously approved with the 2 exceptions.
I guess the only question I had was, what did you want to satisfy the closing itself? Just file a affidavit or a document with the board that it's closed?
You know, why don't you, yes, man, it's more just, to Tom's point, the condition is not to terminate the prior approval.
Right.
If your approval doesn't go through for whatever, if the sale doesn't go through for whatever reason.
Okay.
So yeah, if you just notify us when the sale goes through, presumably Cannabis Control will issue you a new license, and
Yep.
you just send us a copy of the license with a statement that the sale has been completed.
Yeah, there's a form we use for that actually as well, that we notify the CCC that the transfer took place. So we can get you a copy of that.
I would second the motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Dunn, aye.
Wire eye.
Maximovsky, aye.
Zagradnik, aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Okay. And next up, consider letter of support for the completion of the Mass Central Rail Trail as presented by Craig Delapina on our last meeting.
I would support that.
I would support it, but
She didn't give us any like a reference letter for anything. She was supposed to give us something, wasn't she, Sue Bill?
yeah, I thought he was. I know that Andy Morris Friedman sent us a letter that both Mark and I had commented back to him on. So I'll leave it on, and we'll if someone can join us at our next meeting, we'll present, or even just present a sample language. We can look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my comments were all really technical, that the MCRT abbreviation got flipped a few times. Throughout it was MRCT. I just said you should really clean that up, which did not happen before the select boards. Theirs went through, from what I saw, as with a mix of MCRT, MRCT, EIEIO.
Okay. Yeah.
Just one question. Somebody asked if the town of Hadley is plowing it because they saw some Hadley town equipment plowing the rail trail.
I believe the state is plowing the rail trail.
Who is?
State is supposed to be plowing the rail trail.
DCR, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless they have some deal with Scott.
No, it's probably the same type of plow that Scott uses as a sidewalk plow.
Could be. All right.
While we're on it quickly, I've got an invoice to pay of Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, $1,402.50. Motion to pay.
What was that again?
$1,402.50.
1402.50.
I'll make a motion to pay.
I will second.
Any comments on it? That's the quarterly invoice for PV.
They do
Hearing
good
nothing,
work.
roll call vote.
Done, aye.
Wire eye.
Maximovsky, aye.
Zagradnik, aye.
Motion passes 4-0, one absent. Thank you very much. Attorney Reedy, we're gonna make you a ad hoc member of this committee or something. You're here so often.
You know, Peter McConnell used to tell a story that he felt like a guest star when you used to be in person and televised, that people would come up to him and say, "Oh, now starring," you know, Peter McConnell.
Yeah.
Ad hominem or whatever.
So we're here to talk about senior housing bylaw. On Friday, I had sent over an email kind of to bring us back. We were here a couple of weeks ago. I'll share my screen in a moment. We went through the latest iteration of the proposed changes to the senior housing overlay district bylaw. We essentially, I don't want to say got hung up, but wanted to isolate a couple of the topics. One of them related to density, one of them related to building footprint, and then one of them related to the percentage. I'm still waiting for the percentage, but we'll certainly talk about it in tonight's discussion based upon the email. And then I also put together just a two, but one that had some substance to it, draft warrant article for the rural district. So I'll probably start with the simplest first in just a zoning map amendment piece. So just screen, if you can see it, this is just what the warrant article draft would look like. Zoning map amendment to see if the town will amend the official zoning map to update the name of the following area currently within the senior housing overlay district to be named the senior housing rural overlay district. If we want a different name, now's the time to select that. And then just the description here. Obviously, this can be wordsmithed by town council or as the planning board desires. And then we've just got a aerial showing the boundary along with a verbal description of the boundary. So pretty simple and straightforward.
I don't see that changing in the next 40 years of becoming urban, so I think rural's probably okay.
Good. Okay, so that was an easier one. Now I will share my screen with the email because that's probably the easiest way to review it. Okay. So we talked about 27.5.3, which is the density piece, and then the 12,500 square foot footprint limitation. We'll take these in order. And then I do also want to talk about how we want to present this or how you'd like to present it for the warrant article, which specifically changes the senior housing overlay district bylaw, right? Do we want to do strike throughs and red in underlined or italics? Do we want to, and I don't think we want to say like replace in its entirety because I think that might be a little too much. But just to think about, we don't have to talk about it right this minute, but just to think about what that's going to look like. So 27.5.3 currently reads, number of dwelling units and bedrooms permitted. The maximum number of dwelling units and bedrooms permitted in the senior housing development, in a senior housing development shall not exceed 1 dwelling per 7,260 square feet and 14 bedrooms per acre, or up to 5 bedrooms per acre shall be permitted by right. Planning board may permit over 5 bedrooms per acre, according to the, I'll call it TDR. All calculations of dwelling units resulting in a fractional unit of a half or more shall be rounded up. All others shall be rounded down. And so this language right here, if you can see it, is what we have ultimately suggested. And what it does is it increases to 10 the number of units allowed by acre. We've eliminated any maximum bedroom requirements because the development can at maximum have 50 units, and each unit can have no more than 2 bedrooms. So you'd have at maximum 100 bedrooms. And we just thought that the acreage limitation probably made more sense. And then remove the restriction on the number of bedrooms per right, just because there hasn't been, I mean, besides I think East Street Commons, there haven't been any other development. So I don't know that that's the limiting factor, but it seemed like an appropriate time to remove it and let the market work to get more of these types of housing units. So the proposed language would be the number of dwelling units permitted. The maximum number of dwelling units permitted in a senior housing development shall not exceed one dwelling unit per 4,350 square feet, unless such maximum is waived in the discretion of the planning board upon a finding that the proposed project would not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than if such a maximum was not exceeded. All calculations of dwelling units resulting in a fractional unit of half or more shall be rounded up, all others rounded down. And so, admittedly, I don't love the double negative of the not substantially more detrimental piece, but it is a legal term of art. And so I just thought that it would then have some standard associated with it. And so the idea is to say you get 10 per acre, except if the planning board thinks that should be waived, because allowing more than that would not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than just allowing 10 per acre. So it gives that standard. It's a legally defined standard. So you can look up case law and say, well, here, you know, what is the neighborhood? Here's how we define it. What's substantially more detrimental? Here's how we define it. And so, you know, just I know what Mark Dunn had said last time, being concerned about maybe some sort of arbitrary application, this seems to hone that in a little bit.
I like it.
And so the 10 per acre just seemed like a good starting point also. So I'll leave that there if we want to talk about it. I've drafted it. I have no real pride in authorship. I thought it made some sense though.
Any comments from the?
I'm just trying to, so you're basically saying, Tom, to replace the existing 27.5.3 that has 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 with the new 27.5.3 that kind of incorporates all of them into that one?
Correct. What it does not incorporate directly is any bedroom discussion, right? So not once do we say, here's how many bedrooms you can get per acre, and here's how many are allowed by right. We've instead gone and said, you can get these many units per acre. As many bedrooms as you can get. I mean, there's already a natural limitation of no more than 2. And so if a developer wants to come in and do 10 units, but they all need to be 1 bedroom, you know, so be it. If they want it to be 2 bedrooms, so be it. It's more about the unit count than the bedroom count here. But yes, I'm looking to replace 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 with something that puts a unit to acreage limitation, grants the board the ability to waive that upon a certain finding.
Okay. Just so I understand it.
Tom, I have a question. Do you have any pictures of what the units will look like? How tall? How many in a like quadruplex, a duplex, or anything like that? Because the numbers kind of don't mean a lot to me, but I'm sure when you present it to the town meeting, there's going to be a lot of questions too. But so what is it going to look like? How tall, for example, will the buildings be? 2-story,
Yeah,
1-story? Will they be cottage type?
So I'm not going to answer your question, probably, Joe, as directly as you'd like. What we're trying to do here, like we can talk specifically about the Parmar's project, which is going to be, I think, a 3-story building set back off the road where the Hadley Meeting House is, like in that area where the forget what type of restaurant it is, maybe Latin Market. But this just allows density. None of the other dimensional regulations, height, coverage, etc., are being impacted by this. This just says, here's how many units you could get at the site. And so as far as like, what do they look like? The board, through the special permit process, would still have the discretion to work through that design with the developer for whatever project comes forward. And I'm not trying to answer this like in a roundabout way, but we're just not talking about Parmar. I mean, I'm sure if they want, they probably have renderings. I think I've sent renderings of what it would look like. But I want to make it clear that this would impact the senior housing overlay district, right? This is how the district would this is what would impact the whole district, not just Parmar's project.
Okay, so number two, the district is going to go from the presentation from the Coolidge Bridge all the way to the rail trail, right through the center of town, through West Street, all the way that way?
Wherever it currently exists, it will continue to exist. Right, so we're not looking to expand. So at fall town meeting, there was an expansion of the district, which was that first image that I showed, the rural district, we're calling it, the Babb property, Venture Way, south to Route 9, right? So that's part of the district. And then there's the existing senior housing district, which we're not proposing to change. All we're proposing to do with this discussion right here is to modify the density that could exist on a site. So right now you can get 6 units per acre. We're increasing that to 10 or allowing the board to increase that further if it makes sense to increase that further based upon the neighborhood that the project is going to be in. So it still gives that discretion to the board to determine on a case-by-case basis if allowing increased density beyond the 10 per acre would make sense. Now, if you look at that, you look at the land in the current overlay district, there's not a lot of big parcels in there, maybe a handful. And so you're really not looking at substantial projects. I think the likelihood of somebody aggregating land and the cost of aggregating the land and then the cost of raising the buildings on the land and then building, it's going to be tough to even do that, right? I just don't think the economics make a lot of sense to actually do that. So you're probably talking about 4 to 5 total sites generally. And then this isn't, I would say, it's not dramatically increasing the allowed, it's going up 4 literally per acre of the number of units you can have.
Question on this, Tom. This would also apply, this new 27.5.3 would apply to the rural housing, senior housing overlay too.
Yeah, I think it would. I don't know that makes a, like, we'll talk about the Babb property. That's a 30-acre parcel. It's whether this is in effect or not, you could put 50 units there. You can put more than 50 units there, I think, right? Because if you get 6 per acre and you've got 30 acres, you have more availability there than you could ever build. But yes, to answer the question directly, yes, it would impact the rural district as well. Again, it doesn't touch the maximum of 50. It only says how much you can have per acre.
I thought this was only for the original.
Well, that's what I want to make sure everybody understands, because I'm not so sure.
No, I don't think I want that kind of density opened up in the rural.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an issue to restrict it. I'll just say that. I didn't hear, but I don't see a reason why you have to extend it to rural, right? I'm not going to, like, knowing the Babb acreage and what could go there. You keep the original language. I don't see it as being an issue.
That's what I'm kind of thinking of, that we may keep the original 27.5.3 as the rural, and however we want to renumber this, 27 point, whatever I want to call it, as the non-rural, if you would. Because I'm not sure we want to apply it carte blanche everywhere. And when
Well,
we passed the rural district, what had specific the specific limitations of size and densities and appearance, this could drastically change that.
yeah, I would almost rename the the original one, either call it the base, senior.
However we want to call it, as
Yeah,
long as
okay.
we're clear that the original 27.5.3 with the three subsections applies to the rural, and the new
Right.
revised 27.5.3 applies to the existing.
And we've said that elsewhere in, as you know, in the proposed bylaw, like, for example, where we have like single family, like I think a minimum of 10% needs to be single or two family, and no more than, I think it's 40% can be four family units.
Right.
We've carved that up and say only in the rural does this apply. And so we could do something similar here.
Right. That's all I'm thinking. That's all.
No problem. I think that makes a lot of good sense.
Otherwise, it's kind of we would be open to the bait and switch on what we passed at the recent town meeting on the road.
I think the 12,500. Now, where would you put that I in the parentheses, Tom? Yeah, where would that go?
Yeah. So maybe I'll answer the question directly first. I just proposed it as 27.5.16, which is, when you look at,
Okay.
I'll stop the share quick. I'll open up what you had provided and I'll scroll down to the 27.5.6. So you'll see, I'll scroll up. So standards 27.5, following standards shall apply to all senior housing developments. And then I was just suggesting, right, it's got wastewater, it's got water supply, it's got project maintenance, it's got other facilities. And then just here, I was suggesting putting something about that 12,500.
Okay. All right.
Square
Okay.
foot.
Okay. That's fine. I think the logic that you're using there makes sense.
And, one of the things that I as I was reviewing it, when you read the language, it says no new business structure shall exceed a footprint of 12,500 square feet. And so, kind of the first thing I say is, well, we should confirm that senior housing units, well, are they residential? Are they business? And so would it apply? And I guess the question is, if it's ambiguous, which I don't know that it is, but if the board would look to enforce it, then we probably want to add it into 27.5.16.
Yeah, I think we want to do that because rental, you certainly can make a very strong argument that rental real estate is a business. It's an apartment house.
Yeah.
So I think we want to address that explicitly.
Oh, I agree. We do want to expressly, yes, specifically address it so that it's clear and not down the road and it's not confusing.
Okay. So then,
do we need to parse that? Where does multifamily, like up to 3 or 4 family, and then after that it becomes commercial?
I don't know that we need to get reasons behind it as much as to say that senior housing overlay district, something to the words, is exempt from the 12,500 square foot because it's considered basically residential. I'm not sure.
No, I think what Tom suggests is fine. Within the senior housing overlay district, which exists within the village center overlay district, which is downtown, we can waive the footprint upon a finding the appearance is suitable, and then that's the language Chris had suggested, taking into consideration setback, shielding, landscaping, and massing.
Okay.
So I think that addresses it. Now, honestly, it doesn't bind our hands to say that now if we approve this, we have to approve the Par-Mar's proposal.
Right.
Because it does give us discretion.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's a tough one, Bill, because once they come before the board, we start nitpicking about certain things like the design of the building, which we cannot do, the landscaping, which probably cannot do. We'd have a tough time rejecting it.
I mean, if it complies with the bylaw, I mean, you cannot be arbitrary and capricious. You have the famous old saying. So, I mean, if they're complying with the bylaw, it's like anything. How could we say no if it's in compliance? That's true.
And then this last one, so I'm still waiting for current year-round housing. I looked at I think it was like, and Mark, you may know from your work on the 40R committee, but I think this is the latest census data, because I didn't trust my source for subsidized housing inventory. So I just assumed 2,300 is probably 2,300 and some change. So 5% is what you have currently under your bylaw to say, up to this many is allowed by right. After that, the planning board may. What I'll say is when developers love predictability. And so if you're saying, hey, listen, we may not, they may not waste their time. And so, and I don't know that it reflects the reality of what you want to incentivize here. So you have 5% currently. An increase to 15% would allow 345 units. If you increased it to 10%, that's 230 units in total, right? So you've got, I think, 35 units currently. If you're looking at, let's say, BAB at 50, and if you're looking at Par-Mar's at 50, that's 100, 135. I guess it's, I'd say at base, you probably want 10. You may want to go up to 15 if this is the type of housing that you want to incentivize. And again, this is just based off of somewhat old, but probably relatively accurate census data. So 230 to 345 probably gives you enough if you just want to stick at 230 and then revisit it. If you want to split the difference and do whatever that is, 2 something. But I think something above the 5 is probably what we want.
Okay, according to the most current state housing subsidized housing inventory as of June 29, 2023, using 2020 census year-round housing units, Hadley is at 2321.
Okay.
So 5% is 116. You probably exceed that with these next 2 projects. So it seems like it's going to be something above there.
And we also have, we already have, and this is a question I would have to give some thought to. We already have 277 units on the inventory.
Of
senior housing,
affordable housing.
Well, that was my question, Bill. And go ahead. This is you're zeroing in on it.
No, I really can't.
What percentage?
Apart from there, 277 affordable units, but on the subsidized housing inventory. But I guess the only ones we can say are senior units absolutely are the ones Barry has built, because even Golden Court is no longer allowed to limit it to seniors. They have to take certain disability tenants as well. So yeah, what Barry has built are the only units that fall within the bylaws definition.
Right, that's what I thought.
So Vesta and
Barry,
Mhm.
and Barry has what, 32 or 35 units there?
35.
35, okay.
Now, is
So-
there any way, Tom, we could have flexibility, for example, if we like the design, or it, and you would make the design more liking to the planning board, we would give you a greater percentage of affordable housing and you could have more units total. That's what Cambridge just did.
I think that's so it's a little bit different topic than what we're talking about now, but just I think generally you're talking about like an affordability bonus or a density bonus for increasing above 15%, which is what's required here, the number of affordable units. I think you could either, we can certainly craft a bylaw provision that allows that density bonus. What we're talking about right here, though, is just kind of right out of the gate, how much senior housing will the town, the planning board, actually allow? And so my only caution is, I don't know that anybody would come in to even have a conversation with you guys if they could only get 3 units, 5 units, 10 units, right? I think you probably have to increase it to at least 10% just to get past go. And then I think, Joe, what you're talking about is an affordability bonus, which we could modify 27.5.3 or add a 27.5.3A or something like that, 3.5, that allows some increase in density, provided that, maybe there's a certain increase of density if you provide 20% affordable. Maybe there's another increase of density if you provide 25% affordable. I think in either of those 20 or 25%, you're probably getting close to having 100% of it count. 100% of those units count, but it's certainly something we can look at. I just don't know that.
Well,
Let me make sure we're
I
talking about
just
this.
threw it out for discussion, Tom, because as you know, we have almost 12% of our housing is considered affordable, which is the highest in Happy Valley. But nevertheless, the state overrules us by, well, the Knights Inn and the Econo Lodge. It's kind of an overruling of what was supposed to be something the town took upon themselves.
Can you remind me where the 5%, which subsection that's buried in?
Absolutely. I want to say it's like 27.51. It's like right at the beginning. Let me find it, Mark. 27.5.4. I'll pull it up right here. So if you see what it won't let me highlight, but it's, if you can follow my mouse, 27.5.4 maximum number of
Right.
senior housing dwelling units.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with going to 10%. I think going to 15% might be premature, but there's no reason we can't. If a couple of these, Barry's project, the Palmer project go ahead in a few years and everything's happy, and we still want to encourage more, we can always come back and change that 10 to 15, but I don't think we need to do it right now.
Yep. I don't disagree. I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I guess substantively, I don't know if we want to talk about density anymore or if we want to talk about form, and if any of you guys have any thoughts on, like I said, like as I'm putting this warrant article together, what do you want it to look like? If you've got an earlier one, Bill, that you want to send and I can mimic it, that's fine. I've seen like Amherst, for what it's worth, they'll like strike through and italicize and underline changes. I don't know if you're thinking like just do the sections that we're touching. Do we just redline the whole and have it adopted? Like, what do you think the best way to do this?
I think it would be cleaner to basically readopt. Well, there are enough changes scattered around.
Yeah.
That I think it would be cleaner to readopt the entire bylaw, but have a text that has strike throughs and underlines, strike throughs for deletions, underlines for adds.
Or even just red for ads, whatever way you want it better. Yeah, that might be better as opposed to an underline. Maybe like when we did the last one, we struck through what was deleted and put in red what was new, so that people would clearly see at the town meeting what the differences were.
Yeah, I think the color pops more than an underline.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a question of producing it.
I'm happy to do it.
Your color printer will get a workout.
It'll work out, exactly.
We might be unfair to those who are colorblind, but what percentage of the average
Well,
community?
even red versus black will come out as a different color.
Yeah.
Okay. Shardul, Chris, anything else you guys want to add?
I don't think so. I was struggling to remember what I had said last time about the building massing text. And then if there's any concern about color, I mean, there's no reason you can't do it in red and underline it.
That's true too. Yeah.
Belt and suspenders.
No,
Sure.
I mean, it's
Shardul, thoughts?
Nope. No, I think we've covered
Good.
everything.
So next step, I will, Jim, take what you had sent. I will put it in a form like we just discussed, both as a warrant article to adopt and then as a separate textual document showing what those changes are.
right.
And I'll get those to you before your next meeting. And I think what we're going to do, you're going to notice it, publish it for an April 1st hearing, I think.
Yeah, that was the idea.
So, okay. Okay, I'll look to get this to you, was it by next Friday? Does that sound good?
Yeah, that'd be good. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then we'll take it up again. I'll leave this article or this item on the agenda. We can take it up at our first March meeting.
Yep.
Perfect.
March 4th.
Okay, well, thank you, as always.
Okay.
It's constructive.
Likewise. See you, Joe.
Keep smiling.
Next up, anything?
I just want to.
Oh.
I don't want to forget that we also are going to do modify the solar bylaw to address the Attorney General's concerns, and Town Council gave us a text on that.
Yeah.
We can look at it again, maybe at the next meeting, but I just didn't want to forget it.
But why don't you send it around to highlight it for the next meeting, Bill, just to make sure we all have it. The rights that
Okay.
we're all on the same page. That's all. That way we'll have one public hearing for all of these things.
Okay, I'll send that around again. No, I have nothing else. So I do have, and I will have on every meeting going forward, I'm going to notice an executive session to
Okay,
discuss pending litigation.
okay,
There is nothing that requires we go into executive session tonight, I don't think. But a reminder that we are having an executive session, and the select board has posted it for planning board as well, for as a joint meeting in executive session at 5:30 tomorrow night in person at the senior center. That will be a half hour before their regularly scheduled meeting time.
Don't forget to wear your crampons for the ice.
I have been wearing them in the driveway. Made me feel very much more secure bringing the trash out.
There's,
we're paying this year for the last few years of wonderful winter weather, that's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, reminds me of the ice we used to see when we were teenagers. But that's a long time ago.
I'm surprised we haven't heard more about trees down and power outages, at least not in our town, I don't think.
Well, I mean, obviously separate topic, but Eversource and others have done a real concentrated job the last several summers cleaning up a lot of the overhanging trees in our area and stuff like that. But I mean, even in the hill towns, of course, there's a lot more trees up there, obviously, over the roads. But they've really been doing a job cleaning that stuff up.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. Anybody have anything else?
Did we need to set a contract with PVPC for how many hours they're going to give us, or where did we leave that? Is that on the agenda? Can we discuss it or no?
They gave us a price of how much money is left, and I believe at the last meeting, oh wait a minute, no, you're right, we didn't vote to accept. We voted to approve the remaining money, whatever that might be, and apply it towards your 40R.
Okay.
I believe we voted that at the last meeting.
Yeah, it was 2 meetings ago.
Yeah,
No, I'm sorry, you're right. It was the last meeting. We voted to accept the plan that Kyle laid out in his February 4th memo.
Right. Yeah.
So then does he need to give us a contract modification to add hours? I mean, I just want to make sure I have all my ducks in a row before I schedule him.
We have been, over the last number of years, we've added things mid-season to the PVPC contract without specific wording, and
Okay.
we've dropped doing some other things. We just carry them over. So I don't know that we need a new contract wording,
Okay.
Mark.
Okay.
It's a good point. Good, we are, but I believe we've kind of a gentleman's agreement, if you would, where we agreed that, you know, we're gonna do this instead of this because it makes more sense right now.
Okay. No, I'm in that practice at the blob. If I,
Well, yeah,
you know,
good point.
oh. All
I
right,
have
so
one thing.
Go ahead.
The annual report for 2024 is due March 1st.
Yep.
Jim, did you want to write something up, or do you want me to
I've got
take
it
a
all
stab
printed
at
up.
it?
I will be giving it out for a review this week, and hopefully we can talk about it. Well, we won't talk about it the next meeting, but if anybody has comments, I will send it out for review. If you have comments about it, get it back to me. And when we're all said and done, just give it to you, Kayla.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jim.
Okay. I have been working on it. Surprise, surprise. Okay. Anything else? Hearing nothing. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Motion second. All in favor? Roll call.
Don't I?
Dwyer, aye.
Samansky, aye.
Raddick, aye.
Motion passes 4-0, one absent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Kayla.